Ralph Havel.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker, kia ora tātou te whare. Can I say from the outset, Mr. Speaker, that the Māori Party will be supporting this bill at the first reading, and we do so, as we usually do, in order for the debate to be taken outside to the community and allow the nation to have a say about these particular bills. Clearly, from the view of the Greens through to the major parties, the bigger parties, there is a clear difference in opinion, and so we will be supporting the notion of it allowing to be having some air across the country. Mr. Speaker, if I can cut to the chase, this bill is designed with the intent of increasing the operating efficiency operation of dairy markets in New Zealand by regulating the activities of Fonterra. The purpose is to ensure New Zealand markets for dairy goods and services are contestable. And just to put some history, I suppose, to the debate, I'm not too sure about all of the detail, but as far as I can understand it, basically when the Dairy Industry Restructuring Act 2001 came into being, it allowed the merger of New Zealand's two largest dairy cooperatives and the New Zealand Dairy Board to form one single cooperative company, namely Fonterra. At establishment, Fonterra collected approximately 96% of New Zealand's milk production. And given this dominant market position, the government decided to regulate the behaviour of Fonterra in relation to its suppliers and potential competitors to ensure the efficient operation of dairy markets in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Hence the notion of contestable market. Even if there is only one seller, in this case Fonterra, the seller may be forced to act as if there were many more. So what does this mean for tangata whenua? Mr. Speaker, I want to state the case, just for the record, that this nation recognises the enormous contribution that Māori dairy farmers make to our community and our export market. Farming an effective area of, as I understand, around 720,000 hectares worth an estimated $7.5 billion, Māori are the largest natural grouping of pastoral farmers in New Zealand. Given the collective nature of our land holdings and the number of shareholders they support, there is also a strong case for saying they're the most sustainable farmers in New Zealand. Mr. Speaker, Māori dairy farmers own an estimated 10 million shares in Fonterra, with some of the major players in the sector being large corporations like the 2006 dairy competition winner PKW, Parinini Hiki Waitotara Farms Limited, which has an estimated $50 million of farming interest in Taranaki. Another big player is the Wairarapa Moana, which owns 2 dairy units, milking a combined total of about 7,200 cows, producing 2.3 million kgs of milk solids annually. The group also claims assets of around $150 million. The Māori proportion of shares in Fonterra, I'm led to believe, is around 8.3%. Mr. Speaker, given this background, how will this bill enable Fonterra to be a successful and innovative dairy company and still remain a low-cost commodity producer? How does regulation enable Fonterra to weather any volatility in the market without necessarily sacrificing milk payouts at the expense of farmers? So we know that the Fonterra payout is increasingly a barometer for our domestic economic conditions, since dairy farmers' incomes and investment plans are closely tied to international dairy product price movements. And so it is really of a fundamental importance to Māori and indeed to the nation that this bill provides certainty in the market while also keeping a strong relationship between New Zealand dairy markets and the government's policy direction. Mr. Speaker, the key way this is achieved will be that this bill sets out the market share thresholds that, if met, would bring about the expiry of Subpart 5 of Part 2. Subpart 5 of the current Dairy Industry Restructuring Act 2001 provides for effective regulation and transparency of Fonterra's activities within the dairy industry. Subpart 5 also deals with the expiry of these regulations if a certain condition, meeting of the dairy market share threshold, is met. Currently, if independent processors collect 12.5% or more of milk solids within a season, the market share threshold is met. Now remember, Mr. Speaker, Fonterra collected approximately 96% of New Zealand's milk production, so there has never been much room for independent operators outside of this. So the new legislation provides for a more detailed approach in determining when the threshold is actually met and increases the threshold to 20%. However, the new legislation is very specific in defining the process of determining the threshold and it effectively empowers the Minister of Agriculture to forcibly enact the expiry of this subpart in the event that the threshold is met. So from our reading of the bill, that would worry us, the apparent increase in the powers of government interventions. In essence, Mr. Speaker, this bill affects approximately 1,700 dairy industry workers, farm owners, farmers and farm hands who are Māori. We will be very interested, obviously, under that light, to hear from them and to hear from the Federation of Māori Authorities. We know that the FOMA dairy cluster has long battled for better Māori representation in relation to Fonterra, but have been told that the sector representation at a board level can't happen. So we will be interested in hearing just how involved they have been in the negotiations around changing the threshold. And as a proud member for Te Wairiki, I will be looking out for, in particular, for the advice of those involved in the Māori-owned Miraka Limited, which I know wants to build a milk processing plant at Mokai, about 30 kilometres northwest of Taupo. It is looking great. The Miraka partners, Wairarapa Moana Corporation and the two Aropaki Limited group, who have been doing some great work in that particular area, are already dairy farmers in the region, running about 10,000 cows between them. The capacity of their proposed plant is located in the catchment around the Taupo area that could also supply Māori milk from further north around Rotorua and from other two wharetoa owned land in the region. So, sir, I would suggest this bill will be very high on their agenda in terms of their initiative in establishing an independent plant for the processing and marketing of milk. And I want to share with the House the comments of PGG Rights and Māori Agribusiness Manager Clinton Hemona about the excitement associated with Miraka Limited. He says, and I quote, Māori have been seen as a sleeping giant for some time, and this is them coming to life. It is the next step forward to pursuing their own path, end of quote. So, Mr. Speaker, we welcome all of these views and we will support, as I say, this bill at its first reading to make sure that we can capture the views across the nation. Kia ora tātou.